The boardroom door clicked shut just as my fingertips grazed the handle. Through the frosted glass, I could see 7 silhouettes settling into chairs around that polished conference table. My conference table. 18 months ago, I had stood there trembling with excitement as I presented my prototype. 3 years of 18-hour days in my garage had created something revolutionary. Then came the voice behind me, Brick Hayes, VP of Strategic Development. "Sorry, Kira, this is for the suite only. We're handling the client presentation internally." Something inside me cracked, but I kept my expression neutral. "Of course. I'll wait outside." I had built that technology from the ground up, every algorithm, every interface. It was 30% faster than anything else on the market. When they acquired my startup, the money seemed life-changing. I stayed on as a senior consultant, a deliberately vague title that kept me in the shadows while they took credit. But this meeting wasn't just any client pitch. This was Elias Morton, my original investor, the first person who believed in me when others called my ideas impossible. At that moment, standing in that hallway, I realized I could no longer stomach this. I wasn't going to sit quietly while they sold my dreams. Back in my tiny office, tucked in a dark corner of the building, I thought of the clause in my acquisition contract. One my lawyer had insisted on. If the company misrepresented my technology, I retained certain rights. That clause would change everything. I pulled out a box I hadn't touched in 18 months. Notebooks, sketches, emails with Elias, proof of the long nights and breakthroughs we'd shared. At 11 p.m., I called Elias. "Kira," he said warmly, "the presentation today looked good, but something felt off. The team couldn't answer my deeper technical questions." That was my opening. Over the next hour, I walked him through everything, not with bitterness but with documentation. I showed him the clause, my records, our early work together. His response: "If this is accurate, and I believe it is, I can't proceed with this contract. In fact, would you consider starting fresh, with proper funding and full ownership?" By noon the next day, my former company's executive floor was in chaos. The $50 million deal was dissolving. Elias officially withdrew, citing concerns about intellectual misrepresentation. Suddenly, the people who had pushed me aside needed me. "Kira, we need your help." One by one they came, Brick, Camille, Fletcher, asking me to salvage their crumbling deal. But it was too late. I had already submitted my resignation. That evening, I walked out of that building forever, no bitterness, just satisfaction. The truth was surfacing. Within 72 hours, 7 executives resigned. Why? Because when the board asked for proof of who created the core technology, none of them could explain it. None of them had the documentation. I did. Every patent, every development milestone, every timestamp had my name on it. The board gave them a choice: resign or face a public investigation. They chose resignation. 6 weeks later, Apex Innovations launched, with me as majority owner and $15 million in funding from Elias. At our first major client meeting, I sat at the head of my own conference table, presenting the technology one had built. For months later, Elias brought me an opportunity. Aerospace industry. $200 million contract. They want to work directly with you. I said yes. My former company was eventually acquired for far less than expected. The leadership instability and questions about IP mismanagement had damaged their reputation. And then the ironic moment, a LinkedIn request from Brick Hayes. "I hope we can put the past behind us. I'd love to discuss collaboration opportunities." I declined the request. No words necessary. Today, Apex Innovations employs 43 people. We have contracts worth over $600 million, with innovations licensed in 12 countries. But more than money, we have integrity. At the International Innovation Conference, I shared this story. A young woman approached me in tears. Her colleagues had been taking credit for her work. My story gave her hope. She's now one of our research directors. The people who excluded me from that boardroom didn't just shut me out. They freed me. They reminded me that I didn't need their approval to succeed. And to you, if you're watching this, if people are taking credit for your work or making you feel invisible, your value doesn't decrease because others fail to see it. Document everything. Believe in your worth. When the truth surfaces, and it will, be ready to show the world what you're capable of. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you're building, what you're fighting for, or what truth you're ready to let surface. Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay invisible, because these stories matter. They remind us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they stop waiting for permission and start believing in their own value. The world needs what you've created. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.